Brad, you come this week with a 3-fight winning streak, man. I mean, things are rolling well for you. What's been clicking, man? What's it feel like right now?
I don't know. Like I've been saying it. I don't know specifically why, but every camp has just been getting better and better. In 2015, I fought Marquardt. Like literally, like right after I fought Marquardt, I went through a lot of stuff in my personal life, and it just wasn't in the right place mentally, emotionally, physically. You know, I was just kind of going through the motions, I felt like. But that Whitaker fight, you know, I'm not taking anything away from him. That night, you know, he was a better man. He beat me fair and square. But just leading up to it, I probably should have never even took a fight. And that's, you know, another reason why I took such a long layoff in between that Whitaker fight and then the next fight was the end of 2016 or ending of 2016. But yeah, now everything is back on track, in the right place. You know, my mind is where it needs to be, and physically I'm where I need and want to be. Not to mention I have the UFC PI now. That's a huge advantage for me. So yeah, I can't really put a nail on it, but yeah, it's just everything feels good right now.
You think as fans sometimes, I mean, this game is so mental and everything too, right? I mean, you think sometimes all we talk about is, you know, where are they training? What technique are they working on? What's their skill like? You think maybe fans don't understand sometimes how much things outside of the cage and outside of training like really impact? I mean, you're talking about going through a lot of personal things.
Yep.
I mean, do you think sometimes fans don't realize like how much that influences your career?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's easy to say that, oh, this guy looked this way or that way, or it's easy to give an opinion on something that you don't really know the full story on. And I even catch myself doing that too. Like when I watch as a fan watching other fighters, I'm like, oh, why, blah, blah, blah. But you know, like you don't know what's going on. Like maybe he should have done this, but hey, maybe in that fight something is hurting on him, you know, like, or maybe he dealt with an injury leading up to that fight. And any fighter, I don't care who you ask, they could have a broken hand going into a fight. If you ask them, oh, how you feeling? Oh, I feel great. I feel the best I've ever felt. Like, what else are they supposed to say? As a fighter, what else are you going to say? You know, and saying anything less just makes you look weak. Like, it's just giving up weakness. So I think as a fan, and even myself as a fan, that I need to, like, I catch myself doing that. Like, oh, I wonder why he's not, like, I've seen him do this in the past. Why is he not doing that? And it could be very well, that could be it, like an injury or something you don't know about. Or it could just be they don't want to do it.
But I mean, you've been in the UFC. I mean, we're talking almost 8 years now at this point. I mean, I mean, do you ever step back and say like, it's been a long time? Because I mean, nearly a decade in the UFC is crazy, and to try to maintain, I guess, that high level. You know, I don't want to say just motivation, but yeah, I mean, to go to the gym every single day, to peak every day. I mean, it's got to be tough, right?
No, it definitely is. Yeah, so I've been looking back at my career every now and then, and I think my first fight was in 2007, so I've been fighting for 11 years now, but majority of my career has been spent in the UFC. I came into the UFC at four or five fights into my career, and now I think 20 or so fights, so you know, I've spent the vast majority in the UFC. And yeah, it's been a long time, and definitely I found times where I'm, like, you ask yourself, like, you know, like, we're working so hard, and then you're trying to weigh out the pros and cons of everything, and then I catch myself, like, is this even really what I want to do? And it always comes back to, hell yeah, you know, because what is the other thing, you know, like, what else would I be doing? Working all day, working, I don't know, 9 to 5, or busting my ass, or I don't know. I don't have a college degree, you know. I made the conscious decision when I was young. I was like, okay, I was going to school full time, I was working full time, and I was trying to fight. And I was like, okay, no matter what, I need to work. I need to support myself. So working full time, that has to stay there. That's, you know, it's out of the question. It's the other two. Should I devote myself to schooling or devote myself to this fighting thing? And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna always, you know, have these, like, my physical abilities. The older you get, you know, it dulls down. You get whatever, less explosive, whatever. You don't recover as good. But I was like, my mind, it might get rusty, but I can sharpen it back up. So eventually, if I want to go back to school, I will. So I chose to fight. So dropped out of school, And here I am today.
You mentioned, working at the UFC PI now, which I know everybody in Vegas is loving, but still an Extreme Couture,
Yep.
which I think is incredible. I think in this day and age, I feel like, yeah, there are some teams that stay together pretty well, but especially in Vegas, I feel like people kind of move in and out and go along. How have you been able to stay there the whole time through the ups and the downs
Yep.
and everything? And why have you elected to stay that as your core team?
It's like there have been times, especially it was you probably remember. I don't remember exactly when it was, but it was when Tyson Griffin left, Mike Powell went over to Syndicate. Everybody was leaving. Gray left, I think, to AK or Arizona, wherever he went, and he's eventually back. But everybody left, and then so at the end of the day, there was like 4 of us there. It was me, Martin, Jay, and Evan, and then random guys here and there, some younger guys, some guys that don't fight in any big organizations. And then we caught ourselves at Syndicate, for sparring. We'd be there 2 to 3 times a week just for sparring. And then we looked at it and we're like, this is all our guys here, so we got it back to Couture's eventually. But yes, I don't know. I've always liked the vibe at Couture's. From when I first got out here, I was training at Tapa with Tompkins, but the second that I got a chance to train at Couture's, I just liked the vibe there. And then the other big part of that has been Ray, working with Ray, and that's his home, and that's another thing. But yeah, I've never thought about leaving it. I love Couture's. I love the people there. Another big reason to that is Eric, so it's just my core team around me. And over the past couple of years, we've been able to rebuild it with Robert Follis, Dennis Davis, and we've been able to rebuild it. And now you walk into you're there every week. You see the numbers we have and the type of caliber guys we have. So yeah, I made it through the tough times, and now we're in a good time. So let's keep riding that wave.
That's awesome. That's why I kind of want to ask you kind of where you feel you're at, because here we are talking about 8 years in the UFC, man. That's hard enough, on this 3-fight win streak. So now you're kind of peaking after a couple rough losses or whatever. And you're still a young guy, right? I mean, you're just 30 years old. So, I mean, where do you feel like you're at in your career? I mean, do you feel like the foundation is laid and now you're ready to start building? Do you feel like, where does this point feel like it's at for you?
I definitely feel like, as far as a fighter, a mixed martial artist, an athlete, I definitely feel like I can still get better. But I've been noticing even in training, that I've just overall been feeling a lot better, been doing a lot better. And like you said, like everything is just clicking for me. And I can't pin it down to one specific thing, but I feel like, I have this little bit of momentum. I know in the past I was on a 5 or 6 fight win streak, and I let it kind of get to me, the media would bring it up and like that was their thing, but and then I kind of started like, oh, okay, I'm on this streak, I can't lose because of this streak. So now I don't even worry about that. Like, I'm glad, I'm on a win streak, but I'm the type of person, I always was like this. I expect to win, so I should be on a streak, if that makes sense. Like, I don't go into a fight thinking that I'm gonna lose. Yeah, is it a possibility? Sure, it's a possibility. It's a reality. But I expect to win. I train hard, I prepare hard so that I can go in there, put on a show, and come out victorious. But right now, with this momentum I have, like, I feel like now is the time, I gotta make that run. What better time than now? We have a bunch of guys in the top of our division leaving, retiring, getting a lot older. So this is the time.
Nice. You just come off kind of what I would consider like a signature win over a recognizable name, Taos Ladies. Then you get Krzysztof Jotko. Were you disappointed? I mean, he's a tough guy. I don't want to take away from him because I'm impressed every time I see him fight. He's a really tough guy, but maybe not the name recognition, one of those guys higher up the ranks. Were you disappointed at all?
I kind of really wanted that Bisping fight, and this is not a thing. Like, I feel like a lot of times UFC guys try to target the big names who they know are on their way out just to try, and I mean, it's part of the sport, it's part of the business, but that's not what it's been with Bisping. I've called him out from 5 years ago, I believe, and I've been trying to fight him, and I feel like right now where I'm at and where he's at, that we could, actually make it a fight. And that was the fight that I wanted, but for whatever reason, I understood he's coming off of 2 tough losses. He didn't get knocked out against St. Pierre, but he did get hurt. he got a pretty brutal loss against Gastelum. So yeah, take some time off. You know, you want to go out on your shield, but not being silly about it. But yeah, I hope, since he's declined all his fights, I don't believe he has a fight coming up. I'm not looking past Jocko, but like I said, I expect to win. And when I do, I hope to get that fight with Bisping eventually. I
like it. Well, you got to get through Jocko first. This will be another big win for you. When you play this one out, how do you see this thing going?
I look at Jocko as a complete fighter. I think he came from, I don't know his background, but I believe he came from a striking background. But you've seen in the past that he's not afraid to clinch, to take guys down. So I believe he'll want to strike, but I don't think he can compete with me there. I think I'm the better striker. So if he wants to stay there all night, hey, so be it. That's my game. But like most guys, I believe he'll try to end up taking me down. And you know, when he does, I'm ready for that. And if he wants to fight on the ground, we can do that too.